Okay, so this is my first video report. The idea of this is going to be checking out the editing software I've got on the Mac. So I'm going to run maybe a couple of turns of Kill Team, maybe just one to begin with. And I'm going to be running the Deathwatch versus the Blood Angels. So we've got low numbers, so it's nice and simple to follow, hopefully nice and easy to edit. The game today is very simple. So either side will deploy behind the stairs on either side, and the objective of the game is to capture the statues. So two statues, whoever holds both wins. If you own one and draw the other one, then you win. So they've both got a reason to get around the board, get to the other side of the statue. Terrain's a little bit open, whereas it's a demolished shrine. So we'll have a look at the teams and start playing. Okay, so the first team we've got are the Deathwatch, and from left to right we've got their leader, who has got a combi melter and a power maul. Next to him we've got the combat specialist, who is sporting a storm shield and power sword. We've then got a zealot, who is a black shield and has got a power sword and power mace to choose whether he wants to go for higher strength or not. And then finally we've got a frag cannon, and I'm going to be running him as a heavy specialist. So it's an assault weapon on both profiles, so he'll be firing without any penalties to hit if he advances, so he should be fairly mobile. And then finally we've got a standard non-specialist who has got an Inferno heavy bolter, so he's got the two profiles to choose from. Okay, next up we've got the Blood Angels of the Adeptus Astartes. We're running normal rules today, core rules, not elites, so no sub-faction benefits. So from left to right, we have got a sniper sergeant, scout sergeant. He is going to be the leader. The idea of that being that he's going to sit at the back of the field, fire a few shots and keep generating those command points. Next to him, we've got a Reaver sergeant with a combat knife and a heavy bolt pistol, and he's going to be the combat specialist. We've then got a tactical marine with a flamer, who's going to be the demo, to try and get some extras against people that are obscured. We've then got a intercessor, who's going to be our comms specialist, so he should be buffing the next two, who are the shooters really. So we've got a tactical sergeant with a combi melter and a tactical marine with a melter gun, so they're going to be quite heavy hitting. Okay, so both teams have deployed. The Blood Angels going for a very straightforward tactic. They're going to charge straight up the middle with their melter guns, flamers, all the things that can advance and shoot. Whereas the Deathwatch are going for a slightly different tactic, where they're going to try a flanking manoeuvre on the far side to get to that statue with their close combat specialists, and then hold the line with the other three. Two on the statue and one charging down the centre to counter the Blood Angels. So we'll move on to turn one initiative. Okay, so the initiative turn one, the Deathwatch are going to be sporting their black dice, Blood Angels red, and we've got the command points, so the black is the Deathwatch, orange being the Blood Angels. Turn one initiative. Okay, so the combat specialists going to move up this flank, just the standard movement. Frag cannon moving up to the wall. And these my guys moving up to the statue. Okay, so Blood Angels, the sniper sergeant is going to move up. The flamer is going to advance 10 inches. The melter is going to advance 10 inches. Tactical sergeant advancing 11 inches. Combat moving 6 inches to the wall. And the intercessor coming up behind this squad to give them his comms buff. Okay, that is the movement phase. Neither side have got anyone ready, so we're going to move on to those that have moved, starting with the Deathwatch. Frag cannon is going to target the first melter gun, who is in the open and within half range. We're going to use a command point for more bullets, giving him an extra shot. 3 shots hitting on 3s. Wounding on 3s. -2 AP, so a 5-up save. Doesn't save. 2 damage, out of action on a 4-up. He's out. Blood Angel's Tactical Sergeant's going to fire back on the Infernus Heavy Bolter. 1 shot, he advanced, the guy's obscured and at long range, so he would be hitting on 6s, but the comms is going to give him the scanner, so hitting on 5s. Doesn't hit. Infernus Heavy Bolter is going to fire back with the Heavy Bolter only, not in range for the Flamer. 3 shots hitting on 4s due to obscured. Wounding on 3. -1, so 4-up save. No saves. 1 damage, out of action on a 4-up. Nope. Takes a flesh wound. Reaver Sergeant firing his heavy bolt pistol at the Zealot. 1 shot hitting on 5s. Nope. Deathwatch Sergeant firing at the Intercessor with the bolt gun. 1 shot, not obscured, but is at long range, so hitting on 4s. Hits. Wounding on 4s. Hit. 3-up save. Saves. Intercessor is going to fire back. 1 shot hitting on 5s. Hits. Wounding on 4s. Doesn't wound. Deathwatch are done shooting, so the Scout Sniper is going to try and hit the frag cannon. 1 shot hitting on 4s. That is turn 1, so there's no fight phase, no morale because there's only been 1 guy lost. So even if you rolled a 6, it would still be on his leadership for the Tactical Sergeant. As things stand, both sides own 1 statue each, with 2 models within 3 inches of the edge of the statue. Turn 2, and both sides go up by 2 command points. Initiative goes to the Deathwatch. The 2 at the back are quite happy, they've got a nice crossfire going on the centre of the board, so they're just going to ready. Infernus is going to move up to that window to try and put some pressure on the 2 guys coming in. On this far side, the 2 close combats are going to storm down towards the Reaver Sergeant, starting with the Zealot who's going to charge. Going to need about an 11. That is not an 11, so Honour through Atonement, he's going to re-roll that. Finally, we're going to do a command point re-roll for that charge. Better, but not quite there, so he'll take the 10 inches. Storm Shield can't quite make the charge, so he's going to advance. 7 inches. That is the Deathwatch movement phase. We're now competing for the second statue with 2 and 2 on that. So we're going to move to the Blood Angels, see what they do. Both the Flamer and the Combi Melter are going to ready against that guy in the window to try and get the edge on him and take him out before he gets to shoot at them. Intercessor needs to get a bit more involved, so he's going to move up towards the second statue to put some pressure on the combat specialists. Sniper's going to ready. Reaver Sergeant is going to charge the Zealot on a 3. He more than makes it and should get the first attack in close combat. Now onto the shooting phase, starting with the Deathwatch readied. Frag cannon is going to target that Combi Melter. He is going to use more bullets to add another shot, so he gets 3 shots hitting on 4s because it's at long range. I'll re-roll that. 1 hit, wounding on 4s, wounds, 5-up save, doesn't save. Command point reroll, saves. Combi Melter is going to target the Inferno Heavy Bolter. 1 shot hitting on 4s due to obscure, hits, wounding on 2s, wounds, no AP, D6 wounds for the Combi Melter. 4, out of action on a 5-up. He's out. Sergeant is going to target the intercessor, who is within 12 inches. He's going to use both profiles, starting with the bolt gun, so it's -1 to hit because he's using both. Hits. Wounding on 4s. Doesn't wound. Melter gun hitting on 5, long range. Hits. Wounds on 2s. Wounds. No save, D6 damage. 5 damage. So that goes through the armour, out of action on 4 ups. He's out. Blood Angel's Flamer doesn't have range on anyone, so it just leaves the Sergeant now, who's going to target the other leader. That's the shooting phase, so we now move to the close combat between the Reaver Sergeant and the Deathwatch Black Shield. Reaver Sergeant has 3 base attacks, +1 for combat knife, +1 for combat specialism, hitting on 3s. Wounding on 4s. Both wound. No AP, 3 up saves. 1 saves, 1 doesn't. I'm going to use the last command point this turn to reroll that one, which saves. Okay, Zealot has got 3 attacks. Because it doesn't say whether the charge is successful or not, so I'm going to assume you need to have successfully charged to get the Zealot bonus. So he is going to be using the Power Maul, which is +2 strength, so hitting on 3s with 3. Wounding on 3s. Nope, and I've used my command point. So fairly uneventful fight phase. As things stand, the Deathwatch have still got control of the front statue, and they are competing 2 apiece for the back statue. So 2 down for the Blood Angels, 1 down for the Deathwatch. So we'll move on to morale for the Tactical Sergeant, who actually is fine because he's a sergeant, so he's got a leadership of 8, and we've lost 2, so that's fine. So no morale, we just need to move on to turn 3. Moving on to turn 3 then. Both sides have got their sergeants, so they're going up by 2. And initiative goes the way of the Blood Angels this time. Okay, so on the right side, the sergeant and the Reaver Sergeant, Scout Sergeant, both going to ready. Meanwhile, these guys are going to try and move up and put some pressure, so both of them are going to advance. Flamer is going to move 9 inches. So he's going to charge down this flank here towards the statue. Tactical Sergeant with the combi melter, 10 inches. He is going to follow the same path so that he can avoid the fire of that frag cannon on the far side. So he's going to use these buildings as a bit of cover. For the Deathwatch, the frag cannon on the left there is going to try and come across and cover this to give the Sergeant a bit of cover, so he is going to advance. He moves 8 inches, which probably isn't going to be quite as much as he wanted, but it should still be worthwhile. 8 inches does put him in front of that window, so he has got a clear shot on the Flamer, who isn't probably obscured even, so he's going to move there. Sergeant is going to ready. He too has got a shot through the window, but it's going to be obscured by the statue there. Okay, so over on this side, the Storm Shield combat specialist is going to charge in, so he needs about 4 inches, maybe 3 to get in. Makes it. He's going to scoot around to the far side of this tactical Reaver Sergeant. Okay, a little bit of jiggery pokery. The Zealot is actually going to fall back and he's going to come over here, so this way the 2 combat specialists are controlling that sort of combat zone and who gets to fight first. Okay, that's the movement phase, so we're now on to shooting, starting with Blood Angels readied, which is just the sniper, as the Reaver Sergeant was charged this turn, so can't use his pistol. And he is actually going to target the Zealot, who's in the open. 1 shot hitting on 3s, hits, wounding on 4s, doesn't wound. He's going to have to use a command point for that. Does now cause a mortal wound because it's a 6 and it's a sniper rifle, so can't be saved. Out of action on a 4 up. No, and we've just used the command point. Zealot gets a flesh wound. So the Sergeant with the combi melter, you can just see poking through the window on the far side, is going to target that Flamer. He is going to use both weapons profiles, so bolt gun hitting on 4s, in fact 5s because he's using the weapons profiles. Nope. And the melter gun hitting on 6s. Nope. That is readied, so the flamer is now going to target that frag cannon. D6 shots. That's 6. So that's 6 shots, normally wounding on 4s, but he's going to use a command point to go to use custom ammo, so he gets an additional one there. So because the target's obscured, he's got breacher, which will bring him down to 3s, and he's going to use custom ammo, so he's wounding on 2s. 3 ups, 4 of them. 3 fails. It's 1 damage, so out of action on a 5 up because he's obscured. Nope. We might as well command point that because we've got some to spare, and we haven't used the command point reroll in the shooting phase. Nope, still doesn't go. Takes a flesh wound. Okay, so the frag cannon's going to fire straight back. He is going to use the frag round, which is an assault 2d6 auto hits, for 7 shots, wounding on 3s. So that was 6 hits, 4s to save. 3 fails, so that goes through. Out of action on a 4 up. Doesn't go, and we've used our we haven't used our command point reroll, so actually we are going to do that. He goes. Tactical Sergeant is going to shoot through that window at the frag cannon. He's going to chance his arm and just go with the melter. So 1 shot, but it is hitting on, just double check, it's probably going to be 5s. Actually, he's going to fire both. So the two bolt gun hitting on 5s, 1 hits, wounding on 4s, does wound. No AP, so 3 up saves. And the melter gun is hitting on 6s though. No. So we now move over to this side for the close combat. I'm going to start off with the combat specialist on the Deathwatch side because he charged. 3 attacks hitting on 3s. Only 1 goes through. I'm going to use the last command point to reroll one of them. That goes through. Wounding on 4s. 1 wound. Minus 3 AP, so 6 up save. It does save, that's a good save. Previous Sergeant fighting back, hitting on 3s. Wounding on 4s. 3 up invuln. Oh, 3 6s, that's definitely safe. Okay, that's the end of turn 3. We do need to do a nerve test for the Tactical Sergeant at the bottom here. So we've got the two Deathwatch who are covering this statue here fairly successfully, and then it's 2 on 2 on the far side. So it's going to all to play for in the next turn. But first we just need to do nerve test. We don't need to do a broken test for anyone just yet. If the Blood Angels lose 1 more, they'll need to do a broken test. The Deathwatch will need to lose, I think, 2 more to do that. So we'll do the Tactical Sergeant, who needs anything apart from a 6. He's fine. Okay, so turn 4. So at the end of this turn, we'll roll a dice to see if we carry on with the game. So the Deathwatch go back up to 2, and Blood Angels are now up to 4. So initiative. Goes Blood Angels again. Okay, so the 2 Blood Angels at the back here got no choice but to really stand their ground. He's just going to pivot, but that's just for fluff purposes. So they are going to ready. That leaves our guy at the side here, who's going to Hail Mary it to the statue. He can actually make it in just his normal move, so that's what he's going to do. He's just going to tuck slightly behind the statue for a bit of cover. Okay, so for the Deathwatch, these 2 at the back, the frag cannon is going to ready. but the sergeant is going to put some pressure on that tactical sergeant, try and split his fire a bit. It's near the end, so he's going to move 6 inches up and give him some pressure from the side. Okay, so on this side, the zealot is going to charge the sergeant. He's really got no other option, so he's going to do it on a, looks like a 6 up. And he makes it, that's 10. Overwatch, doesn't hit. And he goes. Okay, so that is all the movement phase, so we now move on to the shooting. The Blood Angels did have initiative, but all of them have been tied up in close combat. So the combat specialist at the back gets to fire with his pistol, actually. So that's what's going to happen first. And then we're going to move on to Deathwatch. Heavy bolt pistol, hit on 3s, it doesn't hit. Then moving on to the frag cannon here, he is going to fire the frag round again, so this is an auto hit because there's a bit of obstruction in the way. 2d6 shots, 12 shots, wow. Strength 6, so wounding on 3s. So it needs 5 4-up saves. Fails 3. Okay, so he is out of action on a 4-up because he's obscured, but does have a flesh wound. He's out of action, that is a 6. Blood Angel goes. Okay, that concludes shooting phase. The sergeant hasn't got a target on anyone on the statue, and so we move over to the fight phase between these two sets here. So we're going to start off with the zealot because he has charged this phase. So he's going to attack. He's +1 attack and +1 strength because he's a zealot and he charged. 4 attacks hitting on 3s. All hit. Obviously he's using the power sword, so +1 hits, so wounding on 3s. So 2 go through. Need 2 6-up saves. 1 saves, but 1 goes through. He might as well, he's got an abundance of them, use a command point. Nope, it was worth a try. It's straight 1 damage, so out of action on a 4-up. That is a Deathwatch 6, so Sergeant goes. Then I'm going to move on to these two chaps up here. Blood Angels had initiative, so the Reaver Sergeant goes first. 5 attacks, hitting on 3s. Wounding on 4s in the battle of the combats. 2 go through. 2 3-up saves. 1 saves, 1 doesn't. So I'm going to use a command point to re-roll that one, which now saves. Combat Specialist hitting back, hitting on 3s. 2 hits. Wounding on 4s. 1 wound. -3 AP, so 6-up save. Doesn't save, use the command point. So he takes an armour wound because he's got 2 as he's a Reaver. He takes an armour wound. Okay, so just need to do morale. So we need to do a broken test as there's only 1 Blood Angel left on the board. So 2 dice, trying to get lower than an 8. That is an 8, so doesn't actually get broken. And then roll a nerve test for the actual Blood Angel itself. 5. So that would bring it up to 10. He knows no fear, so he's going to try that again. Gets exactly the same. So he, unfortunately, having watched his entire team get wiped out, is now going to be shaken. Okay, so I'm going to call an end to it there. Blood Angels have lost all but 1, who's now shaken, so they're kind of out of it anyway. Whole sort of narrative behind this is a training exercise between the competing factions of the Adeptus Astartes and Deathwatch, and the Deathwatch have shown their elitism here. So Deathwatch have lost 1, which was their Infernus Flamer, who was quite an early casualty, whereas the Blood Angels have lost them gradually. The Deathwatch shown a bit more durability, a few more flesh wounds on them. That Zealot, his thing is getting in close combat. If you can charge him in, he is devastating with that power sword. So that kind of clinched it at the end for that second statue. The Reaver Sergeant showed a good durability. I was a little bit concerned about him, how well he was going to survive. But if you get him in close combat and away from melter guns, he's actually quite durable, and it was certainly putting wounds on them. I had to use a couple of command points to re-roll my 3-up invuln save. So all in all was good. Blood Angels didn't really get a chance to use many of their tactics with the demolitions. When he did score flesh wounds. So no, it was a good little game, and hopefully it'll come out all right in the editing.